currently my second internship this summer. Um, at the moment, I'm doing a patent attorney role.
What is on, guys? This is obviously Jordan here. This is my second internship of the summer. I recorded it very, very poorly, but we're gonna run some edits just to get you off on the right track. I did my first internship as an ESG consultant in London. I did my second internship as a patent attorney also in London, although I was sent to the Oxford branch for the week. The experience wasn't as coherent as the ESG internship. My consulting internship was actually 12 weeks long. It was meant to be 8 weeks, but I was able to negotiate an extra four, which was nice. It was cool to be able to actually work. I feel like the first couple of weeks you spend time learning what you're doing, a bit of training, but getting used to things. It was only really near the end of the program where you kind of knew what you were doing. And even though I'm nowhere near as technically sound or as competent or as well trained and well rounded as the other consultants or the actual consultants and the associates and etc. As an intern, you kind of want to show what you're worth and provide some sort of value. So it was important to me that I got those extra few weeks to really put the pen to paper and actually show what I was capable of.
My previous internship was I was working in as an ESG consultant, and I got that through the 10,000 Black Interns program. They sent me out to Amsterdam for a week or so, like 5 days.
The second internship in patent as a patent attorney was only 1 week long, so I never really had the time to adjust and to get used to things how they did it. It kind of forced me to be more pragmatic in terms of getting things done, asking for help, and making sure that even though I knew I couldn't really provide as much value in a week's time, even if I was very, very well trained, a week isn't really much time to get everything done. You at least want to leave a good impression and show that you're at least motivated to work well, to work hard. You can fit in well with the team. You understand the work. If you do have questions, you ask them. It's not really worth it to sit around struggling thinking, what am I going to do next, when you can literally just go to anybody else in the company. I think they understand that a week isn't much time to get something done. So using that leverage to ask, what am I doing, is very, very important.
Funnily enough, they got me up in Oxford at the moment, just in a hotel. Cool purple lights here. Moving like the world's most traveled intern this summer. Yeah, we got some of yesterday's dinner. Some all important, probably confidential notes. Ooh, there was a fun fair yesterday. One this little man. Shout out to the culture.
If I'm totally honest, a lot of what I did as an attorney, well, as a work experience candidate, I guess is the correct terminology. It takes 5 years to become an actual patent attorney. Within that time, you become a training person, and 5 years of training and exams and stuff. You have different titles throughout that time frame, but you're still just like a junior. You're still just a trainee. It's when you after the 5 years when you graduate, when you get all the correct qualifications and you complete your training, that's when you're considered a patent attorney. But the rest of it is a bit more nuanced. But a lot of the work that I found myself doing was very much like a nice mesh between the more academic side of like the writing, the reading, and also the technical side of understanding how these things work, what you're doing. There were different functions within the business: the engineering pattern team, the chemistry, biochemistry. So obviously the scientists had more of the how do these chemicals, is this chemical compound unique, is it special, is this an actual patent? There's also the trademarking team that care about the brand logos and all these different things. And then of course I was like within the engineering team, so thinking more about how these things pivot and different mechanisms within a system. Being totally honest, it very often felt like a kind of glorified split the difference. It's like, is this different to that one? How can I prove these two are different? And not just in terms of the looking different. It's like also are they different parts? Or these two parts serve different purposes. You can have a bottle cap which serves like a cap on one mechanism, but also might be like a screw in another one, which is technically different enough, to justify this being a different invention. So a lot of the work was focused around, is this different to that? I admittedly only got one task. Again, it was only 1 week, so I didn't have much time to explore the breadth of this industry. But from what I was able to learn during that week, it was very much looking at one thing, looking at a bunch of other prior art and saying, is this the same as that? Have they got a case here? And using my own, plus the company's expertise to justify whether we think this is a compelling argument or not, to justify, to applying for a patent. In terms of the actual day to day and what I did during my internship, for the most part, it was going over one particular project. In my case, it was a patent from the engineering team regarding more mechanical parts, and I'd spend the vast majority of my time kind of fundamentally asking around, finding out how other people would attack this type of work. In a nutshell, the most efficient approach was to go through the original document to find out what they were claiming for, and then go through the prior art to see what the overlap is. It's good to understand how the product works first, especially if it's mechanical, because that way you can fly through the prior art to understand whether or not the so-called overlaps are actually the same in both systems, or if there are different ways you can word it which doesn't infringe on the original patent. Doing this sort of work can take a very long period of time. The actual work itself realistically doesn't take super long, but the key bottlenecks with patent attorney work, patent work in general, is the systemic way that they approach filing and granting these patents. It's not always, a lot of the work isn't actually done by the attorneys. You kind of write the original documents, write the application, and it's sent off, and then everything else happens behind, not behind closed doors, but with other organizations that handle more of the specific legal and technical details. During my time, it seemed like it was relative downtime in terms of once you send off applications, there's not really much to do as an attorney, so you are a bit more relaxed in those hours. It seemed like our team consistently started at around about 8:30, 9ish, half 9ish, and finished around 5, half 5ish, which goes to show that the type of workload intensity might peak and trough at certain times, but it seemed a lot more stable and a lot more consistent, and maybe not relaxed is the right word to say, but at least again less intense than what I've seen other people do in similar industries regarding finance or financial services. As this was a special week where they had interns in, we actually had lunch out in the markets one day. We got to go to a pub, like a pub that was run by ex-convicts, I believe, like people that just come out of prison. And it was a really nice experience. Unfortunately, I was there when, as the Queen had passed. So it was a bit of a somber atmosphere, but, getting to experience Oxford, one as myself going to, the fun fair during the week, but also with the team going to more of the local places or to find out where, the markets are and things like that was a really nice, complete experience. And goes to show again just how different industries, it's not so much about how much you make anymore, at least not in my head. It's more about where do you find yourself having the most fun, what sectors work the most for you, not just in terms of the work you're doing, but also your work-life balance. Working at Danes was really friendly. It seemed like everyone got lunch at the same time, which meant that we all went to the shops together, had coffee, get your your typical Tesco meal deal. It's nice to have those moments, whether it be just a simple lunch or coffee, or also more elaborate like team parties or socials where you get to actually get to know each other, talk to each other, and understand the mechanics of the team outside of just your individual work project.
Morning. Yesterday was a bit peak. I couldn't really finish the internship right, recording all the stuff I wanted to, because that was Thursday the 6th, I think, Thursday the 8th, whatever. Of course, it's a tragic day that the Queen passed in the UK. Prayers and condolences. And it got a lot darker quicker than I was expecting, so I was walking home, and it wasn't ideal, but just to give you a final wrap up, I've obviously brought myself home now. I'm back in the ends, happy that I've got a pink/purple shirt to flex. But yeah, day in the life of a patent attorney, it's pretty fun. It's all right. I'm going to do a lot of commentary over this anyways, but one thing that I found really interesting is that for an industry that's literally in STEM, like your patents, you have to have a solid scientific understanding. There's a lot of writing involved, a lot of writing, a lot of client work, a lot of management. And it's a very niche, very specific field where you have skills in both sectors. Skills in both areas. People often say that science and arts are two very different things. Numbers and letters are two very different things. But yeah, very interesting, very fun. And this is my actual last day. So today I've got a presentation. I'm heading down to the office now. I'm actually a little bit late. So I probably have to get a bus instead of walking all the way like usual. Yeah, top up my Oyster card. We're back in London now. So let's see how the rest of the day goes.